It was a gloomy autumn night, with clouds covering the moon and the wind howling through the trees. Emily, a brave and curious woman, found herself faced with a dilemma. She was looking for adventure, something that would break the monotony of her everyday life. That's when he heard about an old hotel called the Black Crow. The stories that surrounded that place were infamous and frightening. The hotel was said to be filled with dark secrets, which echoed through its empty corridors. There were those who swore they heard demonic laughter in the middle of the night and saw sinister shadows wandering the corridors. Emily, an avid lover of mystery, could not resist the call of the unknown. She booked her room over the phone, a strangely easy process. The person on the other end of the line barely gave you information about the hotel, just gave you an address and the reservation date. Emily felt a shiver run down her spine, but the excitement of facing the unknown drove her forward. That night, Emily drove along the dark roads that led her to the mysterious hotel. The building rose before her, an imposing, ancient structure whose facade was covered in ivy. The streetlights flickered dimly, casting a ghostly light on Black Crow. Upon entering the hotel lobby, Emily noticed that the reception was strangely empty. A sleepy attendant with tired eyes finally appeared. He welcomed her with a forced smile and handed her the key to her room, located on the third floor. The hotel's interior was as dark as its facade. Antique furniture, worn carpets, and faded portraits decorated the hallways. Emily's every step echoed around the room, creating a lonely echo that made her feel like she was being watched. Despite the heavy environment and ominous atmosphere, Emily was determined to make the best of her stay at the Black Crow. She climbed the creaky stairs toward her room, carrying a small flashlight and a spirit of adventure. However, upon entering her room, the feeling of restlessness began to wash over her. The room was dark and damp, with a single dusty window that barely let in the moonlight. The bed appeared unmade, and furniture covered in sheets revealed notable neglect. The bathroom, meanwhile, was stained with mold, and the smell of damp was almost oppressive. Despite the poor conditions, Emily decided to light the room with some candles and tried to make the best of her stay. She settled into bed, but the oppressive silence of the hotel made her feel uncomfortable. Strange sounds echoed through the corridors, like whispers and distant footsteps, creating a terrifying nocturnal symphony. Emily remained awake for a while, allowing herself to be carried away by the mysterious sounds that surrounded her. Every noise seemed to carry an untold story, and she could barely contain her curiosity. Finally, exhaustion overcame her, and she closed her eyes, entering the realm of dreams, while the mysterious hotel kept its secrets in the dark. Black Crow's room was plunged into darkness. Only the pale moonlight that managed to shine through the dusty window illuminated it. Emily, finally overcome by tiredness, fell asleep. However, his dreams became restless and disturbing. In her dream, she saw herself in an unknown place, in the middle of a dark and sinister hotel corridor. The walls were covered in faded wallpaper, and the floor creaked beneath her feet. The feeling of being in a nightmare grew with every step I took. She continued to walk down the hallway, increasingly aware that she was not alone. Evil laughter and ghostly whispers echoed in the air. Emily tried to turn back, but the path behind her seemed to have disappeared. She was trapped in a maze of nightmares. At the end of the hallway, she found a door ajar. He pushed it cautiously and entered a room that seemed frozen in time. Dusty furniture, old portraits, and an air of abandonment were all that surrounded her. The air was thick with a heavy atmosphere and charged with dark energy. Emily realized she wasn't alone in the room. A hooded figure sat at the wooden table in the center. The hood covered the figure's face, leaving only an empty darkness. The figure began to mutter unintelligible words, and a single lit candle on the table responded, dancing to the rhythm of the murmur. Emily's heart began to beat faster as the candle danced in a hypnotic manner. She felt something terrible was about to happen, but she was immobilized, unable to move or scream. The hooded figure raised its head, and its empty eyes looked straight into Emily's eyes. A shrill scream echoed through the hallway, waking her from her nightmare. She sat up in bed, her heart racing and her breathing labored. Sweat was running down his forehead, and the feeling of the dream was still vivid in his mind. The Black Crow's room seemed darker and more forbidding than ever. Emily tried to calm down, convincing herself that it had just been a dream. However, the feeling of restlessness persisted. She felt something strange hovering in the air, something that couldn't be ignored. Finally, exhaustion took over her once again, and Emily closed her eyes, hoping that the next day would bring answers to the questions that tormented her. The night at Corvo Negro would not be peaceful, and the mystery of the sinister hotel was far from being solved. What Emily would face in the next few hours was a nightmare that would challenge her courage and lead her to explore the darkest secrets of the cursed place. Morning came to the Black Crow, but Emily found herself waking from a restless night, unable to shake the horrors of her dream. She decided to brave the daylight and explore the haunted hotel, which now seemed even more sinister. She walked down the stairs with careful steps, hoping to find something that would help her understand the Black Crow's secrets. However, the reception was strangely deserted, just like the night before. The sleepy, tired-eyed attendant was absent, and silence hung over the empty lobby. Determined to continue her search, Emily decided to explore the hotel's common areas. Broken furniture, aged tapestries, and dusty portraits decorated the hallways, giving the feeling that time had forgotten the place. As Emily progressed through the dark corridors, inexplicable sounds echoed around her. She could hear whispers, distant laughter, and even footsteps that seemed to come from nowhere. Every sound made her feel even more uneasy, but Emily was determined to unravel the mysteries of the Black Crow. Her steps took her to the hotel's basement, a part of the building that seemed forgotten and neglected. The atmosphere in the basement was oppressive, with damp, heavy air. There, Emily found a solid wooden door, which seemed to contain something sinister inside. She hesitated for a moment, looking at the door with a sense of apprehension. However, her curiosity drove her to pull the handle and reveal what was hidden in the dark basement. When she opened it, a deep darkness spread before her. Emily turned on her flashlight and walked down the wooden steps that creaked beneath her feet. The basement seemed even darker than the rest of the hotel, and the air was filled with a musty smell. Emily continued to explore the place, her flashlight illuminating forgotten and dusty objects. Deep in the basement, she found something that made her freeze in fear. There, stacked haphazardly, were straw dolls, identical to the one the stranger in his nightmare was holding. The dolls were arranged in a macabre circle, and their button eyes seemed to watch her mischievously. Emily quickly backed away from the basement, feeling a chill run down her spine. What she had found there was disturbing and inexplicable. She was determined to discover the meaning behind those straw dolls and the strange events surrounding the Black Crow. As Emily walked away from the basement, a feeling that she was being watched overcame her. She looked around, but the hallway seemed empty. However, the feeling of an invisible presence persisted, and she knew that the Black Crow hid dark secrets that threatened her sanity. Determined to unravel the mystery, Emily returned to her room, prepared to face whatever awaited her the following night. The Black Raven kept its dark secrets, and Emily was determined to discover the truth, no matter what the cost. Night was approaching, and she was about to face the final confrontation with the unknown. Emily was determined to uncover the truth behind the Black Crow's mysteries, no matter how terrifying they were. She returned to her room, observing every corner for clues that would help her understand the nightmare that had unfolded the previous nights. As he inspected the room, his attention was drawn to the dusty window, which was still half obscured by the darkness of the night. She approached the window and began cleaning it, determined to reveal any hidden clues. It was then that she noticed a strange inscription engraved on the wooden frame of the window. The dark words seemed recent, contrasting with the dust covering the glass. The message read, "They are always watching." A shiver ran down Emily's spine as she read those ominous words. What did this mean? Who was always watching, and why? The mystery seemed to deepen with every step she took in the Black Crow. Feeling watched, Emily turned and examined the room more carefully. Every dark corner seemed to hide dark secrets, and the atmosphere in the room was charged with tension. She wondered if someone or something was watching her at that very moment. As Emily struggled with her thoughts and fears, the bedroom door closed with a sudden, frightening bang. An involuntary scream escaped her lips, and she spun quickly to face the door. It was locked. She tried to open the door with all her strength, but it was useless. Something or someone prevented him from leaving. The room, once his refuge, now turned into a prison, and the darkness that enveloped him seemed to intensify. With her heart hammering in her chest, Emily slowly turned around and faced the darkness of the room. It was then that she saw him, a hooded figure standing in the corner, with the same straw doll in his hands that she had seen in her nightmare. His eyes were hidden by the shadows of the hood. The figure began to mutter the same unintelligible words that Emily had heard in her dream. The straw doll seemed to come to life, moving slowly in her hands. The candle on the table next to them began to flicker, creating grotesque shadows that danced across the walls. Emily was paralyzed with fear, unable to move or scream. The nightmare of his dream was coming true before his eyes. The hooded figure raised its head, and Emily felt a shiver of terror when she saw its empty, lifeless eyes staring straight at her. At that moment, Emily knew that she needed to find a way out, that her survival depended on escaping that sinister room. She gathered all the courage she had, throwing herself at the door, and finally managed to force it open. She ran down the deserted hotel hallway, leaving the haunted room behind. Each step took her closer to the exit, but she knew that the Black Crow still held many unrevealed secrets. The night at the Black Crow had come to an end, and Emily was determined never to return to that sinister place. She walked out the hotel door, feeling the cool morning air caress her face. The sun was rising over the horizon, and the darkness of the night had finally given way. As Emily left the hotel behind, she knew the experience would haunt her forever. The Black Raven was a place of nightmares and mysteries, and she had witnessed the worst of them. The words inscribed on the window frame echoed in his mind. They are always watching, and the memory of meeting the hooded figure would haunt her for the rest of her life.